Alrighty, so our Pareto charts in 7G are going to be combining a normal histogram that's got our frequency in it and a line graph that has our cumulative frequency in it. That means that those bar graphs down there are based on the frequency, whereas that beautiful yellow line graph is on our cumulative frequency. I'm hoping by this stage we know the difference between those two things. If not, go back to 7E, 7F, where you went over a lot of that stuff ad nauseum. Now, what you've got to do for these ones is you're making sure that you've got a few different things that we always have in our histograms. Of course, you've got your percentages down the side on the right for your cumulative percentage, the line graph, and on the left-hand side you've got your frequency numbers. Now, each of these should be drawn as a normal histogram, which means you've got that half gap for the column on both the front and the back end. So in front of the Sunday there you'll see a little gap, and after the Thursday there you'll see a gap. Now, for your frequency, you'll notice they've gone from the highest to lowest. That is very important every time you do a Pareto chart. Change it around so that you've got everything in highest to lowest order. Your cumulative frequency is, of course, a percentage of the total frequency. So for this one, it'd be 26 out of 100, which gives us 26%. For the hundreds, it's pretty easy to work out the percentage. It's just the same number. If it's not out of 100, your life might get slightly more tricky. Okay, and using this to find the answers to the questions, our first one is asking for the day with the least number of motor vehicle thefts, which will give us the one on that right hand side, which is at the bottom of our table. So that is, of course, Thursday, which was 5 thefts. Next question is the cumulative frequency of Saturday and Sunday. So we're looking where Saturday and Sunday are and finding our cumulative frequency. You can either do this from your graph on the right, or you can look at your table, see where the cumulative frequency gets up to 50. Because we've got our Saturday and Sunday above it. Next question is asking about Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Mondays. So we're going from cumulative frequency all the way down to where the Monday was, which gave us the 82. Last one is finding our Pareto rule inside our graph. So that means that we go to our graph, we find where the 80% is on the right, go across to our line graph and straight down, and then everything on the left-hand side. For this one, Saturday, Sunday, and Friday. Now doing it yourself. Cumulative frequency, that just means that you're adding up the frequencies we've had so far. Again, you'll notice that they are from the biggest to smallest for our frequencies. 25 plus 9 is, of course, 34, 34 plus 8 is 42, etc., all the way up to 50. Finding our percentages. Most of you, I'm hoping we've realised that if it's 25 out of 50, it'll be 50%, but in case we have forgotten how to find our percentages, you're chucking it in as a fraction times by 100, and that gives us our percent. Really just means that we're doubling the number for this one, only because our cumulative frequency totaled at 50. Now we're going to grab all of this information and we're going to make it into a chart. Now before we start graphing for question 1, it's actually getting us to have a think about what we're going to be putting into our graph. First, how many categories we need on our horizontal axis, and of course that is 5 because there are 5 months that we're looking for. The vertical axis on the left hand side of the Pareto chart, which gives us our normal frequency, needs to go up to 25. I'm probably going to do that up by 5s on mine. It doesn't matter what numbers you use as long as your scale is correct. So however much you're going up should be even between each set of numbers. On the right hand side you're using your cumulative frequencies percentage, which again needs to go up to 100. I'm probably going to go up by 20s on that one just so that I've got the same amount of denominations as I had on the left hand side. But as long as you've got it set out evenly, it doesn't particularly matter. Let's grab some grid lines because I'm hoping we're all using grid books at this point. And put down my axes. Come on. I think I made that too short. I might have to extend that out a bit later. To be wary when you're drawing it, that's the whole reason of looking at our left and right, the vertical axes, is to make sure that you've got it long enough. Now along the bottom I'm putting in where I'm going to have each of my months. You'll notice I've got the half gap at the front, so there's 2 little boxes, and then each of my months are taking up 4 boxes, and I've got that 2 little box gap at the end as well. I'm going to chuck on the line for the right hand side, which is where my cumulative frequency percentages are going to go. Okay, so let's get all of our months down. Next thing I'm doing after I've got that down is working out my scale on my left and right hand side. Going up to 25s, like I said before, I'm probably going to choose 5s to go up by. I should end up with enough boxes in there to go up by an actual single box each, but I'm only going to put on where my 5s are. as I said when I first drew it, I probably made my axes a little bit too short, so I'm just going to extend that one out. Again, be wary before you draw them. I obviously was not wary enough when I did mine. It's an old rule in carpentry, you measure twice and rule once. On the right hand side, going up to the same height as well, so that I can get my percentages in there too. That means I've got up to 25 on the left, and of course I'm going up to 100 on the right. I'm going up by 20s for my one just because I like the number 20. It's nice and round. It doesn't really matter as long as you get all the way up to 100, and again, each space is evenly distributed. Let's chuck all those on. Next up, I'm going to be putting in the histograms, that is using bars. So above April, I need to go up to 25. So let's get bar up from April all the way up to the 25 mark. May is of course 9, March 8, February 5, etc. all the way along to get all of my bar graphs in for the frequency histogram. Once my histogram's all on there, let's get January up to 3. We're going to be doing our line graph for the cumulative frequency. So I'm going to chuck that one on in green, which means we're going to have a dot for April, which is at the 50% mark. So find where the 50% is, and a dot right in the middle of where April goes, which would go across. Using a ruler on your page to find out where your percentages will make your life a little bit easier. May goes up to the 68, because again we're using the cumulative frequency section, which is not quite the halfway mark between the 60 and the 80, and then 84, 94 up to the 100 above where January is. Once you've got all of your points, you are connecting them by straight lines in order to get that beautiful line graph in for your cumulative frequency. Now that we've got our histogram and our line graph, we are using it to use the Pareto principle in order to find out where our most important amount of business comes from those 5 months. It just means that we go from the 80 straight across to where our line graph is, and then straight down to where our categories are at the bottom, which means that we've got April, May, and the beginning part of March in that 80-20 section, which gives us our final answer for 1. Doing the same things for 2, 3, and 4. 3, of course, is going onto an Excel spreadsheet. I will post a video on the Excel spreadsheets a little bit later.